Doing page 192. We're going to talk about transformations. So I'm actually not going to show this to start. If I had the function f of x, how do I shift that function up? F of x plus some constant, whatever it is. How do you move that function down? F of x minus a constant. Okay? How do you move that function to the right? Minus c, like that. If you subtract on the inside, then it's going to move to the right. And generally, if you want to change the y values, you perform the operation outside of the function. So you perform the function first, and then you compute in the transformation. And now that changes the y values. If you want to change the x values, then you do the transformation before you compute the function. So if I wanted to move to the left, it would be f of x plus c, where c is a positive number. Okay? How do you reflect across the x-axis? So the x-axis, if we want to reflect about this line, are we going to change the y values or the x values? The y values will change. So if I have this graph and I reflect it, the x's are all the same. It's the y's that have changed. So reflect x is done by negative f of x. How do you reflect across the y-axis? F of negative x. If you reflect across the y-axis, all of the positive x's become negative x's and vice versa. Okay? And how do you do a vertical stretch? You multiply the outside by some constant, c times f of x, but c has to be a number bigger than 1. So c greater than 1. How do you do a vertical smash, we'll call it? C f of x, but c is, it would be 0 less than c less than 1. So if that c value is a decimal, it's going to take all your y values and move them closer to the x-axis. If c is greater than 1, then it's going to stretch them. What if c is negative 2? What happens if c is negative 2? Well, it's actually two different transformations. It's going to be an x-axis reflection and then a vertical stretch. Okay, and then I believe the last two is a horizontal stretch. How do you stretch things horizontally? You multiply on the inside, so it would be f of cx, and which c values will make the graph wider? And you need to remember that everything dealing with the x's works in the exact opposite way of everything dealing with the y's. So a vertical stretch is done by multiplying by a c greater than 1. So a horizontal stretch would be done by multiplying by a c between 0 and 1. So a horizontal stretch would be 0 less than c less than 1. And a horizontal smash is still f of cx, but it's c greater than 1. What happens if c is 1? If c is 1, how is that going to transform the graph? It won't. Multiplying by 1 is not going to change anything. So If you notice here, the left and right shifts are backwards, and the horizontal stretches and smashes are backwards from the vertical stretches and smashes. So multiplying by 2 on the outside will make the graph twice as tall. Multiplying by 2 on the inside will make the graph 2 times closer to the y-axis. Now, those might look similar. Stretching a graph vertically and smashing it horizontally look similar, but they're not the same thing. In some cases, they're exactly the same thing, but in others, they're not. Okay, so if you take a look at 192, you're going to go through it says, write the function whose graph is the graph of y equals absolute value of x but is transformed correctly. What does the absolute value of x graph look like? So you're going to take the v graph and you're going to shift it according to this. So shifted up 3 units. So the shifted graph is going to look like this. What is the function? Absolute value of x plus 3. Okay? And then for 7 through 12, you're going to use the graph of x to the third. What does the graph of x to the third look like? Like this. Okay? And then down on 13 through 20, you have a graph. So 13, you have some piecewise function. And A says graph f of x minus 2. What effect is x minus 2 going to have on this graph? Yeah, that's, I would graph it, but don't worry about being too specific with the points. If you did this, then for your next one, just do, that's good enough. Would that help? Yeah, don't be incredibly specific. And then for the next one, f of x minus 2, and then you just label original A, and then B is going to look like this. That work? Okay. It's 1 through 20 all, isn't it? Okay. Good luck.